Car driven into the water at Belvedere. You're at the back of the Celtic club, sir. As far as we know, it's empty. But I'm going up there this morning to try to locate it, put a mooring buoy on it, and I'll let you know if it's got number plates or anything. Okay, sir. Thanks very much. Bye-bye. Bye.
George is last of a dying breed, and him and his father have worked on the river, and George has been there since 1940. He lives on the green, he lives beside the river, and he works on the river. And I think if we were to identify what flows through George's veins, it would be the River Clyde, to be honest.
The Glasgow Humane Society was founded in 1790. They were being set up all over the world at the time. I think the first was the London Humane Society in 1775. It was the time known as the Enlightenment. Throughout the world, life-saving societies were set up. Now, most of them, like the London, that's now the Royal, decided to put out apparatus, give sums of money and medals to encourage people to save people. Whereas Glasgow went the other way and set up an officer. My father hung around here since 1918, but the young George Geddes was going to take over, they thought. And in 1928 he drowned out here in a whirlpool trying to save a man. And that day my father just moved in and became the officer. And by the time I was 14 I was a better rower than most people, police officers or anybody around. So my father took me out with him to row his boat on what we call cases, you know.
It's essential that young people understand the work of the society. And it's also interesting that in the past couple of months we've employed a relatively young man to assist George in his work in the Clyde, and that's proving a great success.
I was brought on by the society basically to learn George's trade. So George got a chance to give some of his knowledge and what he's learnt over his 40 years involvement with the society, to hand that on to somebody else before he actually decides to retire. I've nearly 10 years experience in search and rescue as a volunteer with the Irish Coast Guard. Whenever we go down the river we always pass Alec in, Pride of the Clyde. Very, very helpful guy to us, and I'd like to think that we're the same to him. Alec has actually been involved in a few rescues with his boat, and George has actually used Alec's boat in rescues and recoveries as well. And certainly having Alec on the river, it gives the Humane Society an extra pair of eyes.
I know George very well. He's become a good friend. And until I was on the river I didn't know George, but I knew of him, and I knew of his father, Ben.
As officer of the Glasgow Humane Society, I'm responsible for preventing accidents, rescue of persons in danger of drowning, and often the recovery of bodies of those drowned. The problem with if it's a problem, with the job is that you just never know the minute. You know, as soon as you think nothing's going to happen, that's when it happens.
George does a tremendous amount of work in the Clyde, tremendous amount for a single individual, and he could not be replaced easily, I have to say. So there would be a direct impact on the council in as much that we would have to liaise with the police and the fire brigade and the RNLI to look at how you would replace George.
The Glasgow Humane Society have got a tremendous knowledge. It's been passed down from generation to generation, and they certainly know the River Clyde. The common term is like the back of their hand, and there is no substitute for that experience. A lot of the Glasgow Humane Society's work is actually the recovery of bodies and keeping the river flowing, you know, the removal of debris, etc.
George complements and augments the works of the other emergency services. I think he actually plays a pivotal role in providing the support that the other emergency services require. He also provides services that they don't require. George will search for a body for as long as it takes. The emergency services, after a specific period of time, would call off a search in that sort of fashion. So he doesn't actually replace them, and they don't replace him. It's more of a partnership.
There's a football up in the bank here that I'm going to remove. Part of the work that you do is part of the prevention work is trying to ensure that there's nothing on the river banks that a child would fall in trying to get. So whenever you see anything like that, You make sure that you lift it out so that take it away. Hi, Jack. Now, a child sees that in the river bank, a child would fall in trying to get it and maybe drown. So you take it away, or you give it to some nice passer-by to take home to the family. It's got uniform, isn't it? All right, Jack. It's a floatium, so it'll blow away. You never know. You can take hundreds of footballs out of the water, and you never know when that one is actually going to be, the one that could have saved a life.
It's important that the river edge is well maintained as well, that the bankings are well maintained, that the railings are well maintained. So we do, where possible, prevention is always better than actual going in to rescue someone.
The water's very alluring to kids, and when you see it in a bright sunny day like this, it looks nice, but it is dark and dangerous. So they must be aware of the dangers that happen in rivers. I mean, there's got to be a lot of signs and notices up, and kids being made aware of the dangers.
George and myself, as best we can, we take out life rings. Any life ring we see in the water, we take out, rehang. Try to make sure there's enough life rings on the stretch of river.
There's a huge amount of safety coming in now, massive amount. The bridge railing out here's been changed so that people can't walk along the top of the length of the bridge and fall off. We're trying to go for vertical bar fencing rather than horizontal bar. We're getting new railing over here. Keyboard ladders didn't reach the water at low tide, so if you fell into low tide you couldn't get out. This has all been changed by the council now, and we're advising on it.
You can say that our job, if somebody throws themselves into the river, by us taking that person out of the river, even if they don't want rescued, we are actually saving or preventing other people going into the river too.
The river's a tempting place for a lot of people who's depressed and get problems. These things happen in life, and without George and without the police, it would be a sad day. These people would just be gone, and their families wouldn't know what would have happened to them.
Suicides or any suicides that I've been involved in, it's a cry for help. Their mindset is not such that they're thinking rationally, but perhaps when they hit the water, the rational thinking may cut back in again, and perhaps they don't want to find themselves in that particular situation. So no matter at what stage someone is at their life, if there's a possibility of rescue and help, we would like to be there to assist that person.
Families, getting their loved ones back, getting their body back, it makes a hell of a difference.
The sad thing is that it's usually tragedy of some kind, silly mistakes and the accidents and that, death that people come close into contact with me. So that's very sad, and I don't like going to the papers an awful lot, because my work's somebody else's, as I say, tragedy.
I'd like to see more people, hopefully more people involved in the society again. Try to get the society more recognised with regard to health and safety regulations. Try to get other people to understand our work.
George is synonymous with the Humane Society, and we have to make sure that any life services, life rescue services that we provide are of a standard that are required in the 21st century.
We work as an integrated emergency service and emergency response team, working closely with the blue light services and also working with the voluntary services, and in this occasion the Glasgow Humane Society.
He knows this river like the back of his hand. He's got all this information through experience, and it's very hard to get experience like what George has got.
My father was a legend, and I suppose I've followed on with the name. I would like to, I know this will probably upset my sisters and things, but I would like to see the parsonage name out the equation, but the Glasgow Humane Society continue. I think that is the main thing. It should be a lot of people, not one person.